live. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Hi guys. It is April the 8th. Red Hair Tom York's #1 fan. There are some good names out there. It is April the 8th, 2021. Hello. I've missed you guys too. Have I? Am I just saying that? I think I'm just saying that. It's been a week. That was fun last week with Philip, wasn't it? That was good. I was a bit unsure about the quiz I had for him. I think that was a little bit forced. One can never be too forced. Hi guys. That was fun. We had a few technical issues. Middle-aged men trying to get online on doing something together on social media. We weren't brought up with it, you know. We didn't even have computers when we were kids. Well, there were small things. But hi from Kiev. Very fun. Nice vibes. Come to Brazil. I'd love to come to Brazil. I'm not sure at the moment, though. I think your president's got some backtracking to do. Hi, guys. Yes. It was my birthday. Happy birthday last week. You're an Aries too. It's funny, I was just sat here and, you know, it's now light. It's still light outside. It's not dark yet. And it reminded me, hello Ed, it's Kevin McCabe's son. Hi Ollie. Sorry, I've interrupted you. Thank you. It was lovely, the fact that you and Kev were on. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but I wanted to say hi to Ollie. I knew of Ollie before he was even born, because Kevin, his father, is an old friend and used to work with us. He still does with Radiohead. He's Radiohead's radio and promotions guy, and he's been with us since '94. Anyway, that was Ollie. So yeah, I was just thinking, it's funny, this time, as the clocks have moved forward and the nights are lighter, it took me back to a year ago. As I'm out here in Wales, and it just reminds me of that moment, that time a year ago when we were all in lockdown for the first time, the uncertainty, the kind of the unknowing, the fact that global society was shutting down before it had become a norm. It was like, and there was a kind of excitement to it as well because we were all new to it. It's like we've never experienced anything like that in our lives. And here we are a year on and it's kind of normal. And I have to admit, and we've been talking, it's starting to open up here in the UK. And we're going to start seeing people. We saw some friends last Saturday, last Friday night. It was kind of weird. It was lovely, but didn't know what to wear. Not wearing tracksuit bottoms, eh? Anyway, that's not important. How do I sleep? Very well at the moment, actually, thank you. It was a weird excitement, anxiousness, wasn't it? It really was. And I think this time of year will always remind me of that first lockdown. It's like sometimes there are certain times of the year that remind me of certain events or big things that have happened, like, you know, when you're 17 and you fall in love for the first time and what was happening then, what was the weather like, what season was it, all these things. And, you know, actually this time of year has often reminded me when we released OK Computer, because we released it in, I think it was April 97 and all of that. But yeah, it's funny. I hope you all had good Easters. If you celebrate Easter, we don't celebrate the religious aspect of Easter, but I like Easter. Someone's asked me, do I feel creative now? That's a very, very good and apt question. And no. What can I say? I'm moving somewhere new. It feels like it's kind of hard to talk about it because I'm right in the middle, but I'm moving somewhere. And I can pick up a guitar and I can play and I can do stuff and I can make sounds that sound vaguely nice to my ear. But whether it doesn't really move me at the moment. So I've got to move first and then see what happens. Which is kind of weird, and I can be upbeat about it with you. But the honesty is, it's quite hard because I've got all this time, and when you don't feel it, and you feel you should be doing it, I've got all this time, I should be doing it. But, you know, that's part of the mystery and the magic of music. And sometimes, I know there are people who disagree, so you can do a song each day, and I probably could do if I wanted to, but whether I'd be moved by it, I don't want to do it because I should be doing it. I want to do it because it comes from the heart and I feel it. So we'll see. That might be it. What if that's all the music I've ever done and that's it, and I'll go on to something else? I don't know. But anyway. That is it. Okay, so one thing I did want to mention was Radiohead band crew t-shirts are being sold. Stanley Donwood's done some new designs. When we've gone out on tour, what usually happens when everything, the PA and the lights and all the equipment is loaded into venue, and when it's loaded out, we supplement our crew with local crew, and the local crew do all the loading of the bus, of the trucks and everything, and they all get a t-shirt. And according to what, you know, that some of the crew, local crew might be loading out lights, other crews might be PA, other crew, parts of the local crew could be doing backline, which is our amps and all our equipment. And they all get a different t-shirt, a different color t-shirt. So all the lighting guys might get yellow. So they're kind of cool. So when you see a loadout, it's kind of quite, all the local crew are wearing their color coordinated Radiohead t-shirts that we give them. And it's kind of, maybe one day when we're out on the road, I would do a little kind of, maybe an in isolation after a show from there. And I show you what's going on. It's not that interesting, but it's kind of nice. Anyhow. All right, I'm going to pull one of you in because I'm not going to talk to myself forever. The other thing that I'm thinking of as well, say yay or nay, I'm thinking that maybe we should go down to doing this once every 2 weeks. If there's uproar and it's, you know, then obviously I'll do it every week. But I kind of feel at the moment, it feels right. It feels right. I don't know why. Maybe, and then if things get a little bit more intense, we ramp it up. We do it every week. But maybe we need to all breathe a little bit. Can we talk about meditation? I'd love to talk about meditation. Is somebody on there? Who was that talking about meditation? Maybe we should do. So yeah, maybe we should go. Oh no, these are so fun, from Tom York's wife. You guys with your names, you're crazy. All right, 75 of you have requested to join. It's going up in number. Here we go. See all. Requests. Let's see all. Who was it that... Okay. All right. Let's see. Who was it? Did somebody request to talk about meditation? Anyway, we won't get literal. I see some of you who are familiar, who I've spoken with before, and I think maybe we will do... So here we go. Let's do blindfold. Come on, let's do blindfold. Let's just scroll. Let's do that. Let's do... Okay. Must upgrade their app in order to join. Okay, so somebody has to upgrade their app. That didn't work. Okay. All right, here we go. Let's try this. Let's see if this B was the one waiting. got all the time in the world. Do, 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 do. I'm waiting for... Okay, here it is. My lung is heal for me. Okay. Okay. So tense, so tense. Who is it? Who is it? Guy. Who is it? Thank you, Marky Moon. I appreciate it. Thank you, the green plastic watering can. Wonder where that lyric came from. Please take shirt off. You didn't spell take right. You've spelt it ataka. I don't want to take my shirt off. I'm not that kind of social media site. You know how many social medias, you know, serious ones, they have lots of, oh, okay. That's right, I have to do another one. Unable to join. Do you notice on social media sites how some serious, I was looking at some, they are really, some of them get really sexy, right? They really do their best. And I was wondering, no, I'm not going to even go there. But it is funny. And they, you know. Anyhow, all right. Let's try. All right, here we go. I like the name, What Is Up, Buttercup? What is up, Buttercup? That's a good one. Where is Ziggy? Ziggy's back in London now. I'm on my own. Hi. What is up, Buttercup?
Are you talking to me?
I think so.
Well, I have to figure out how to get where you can see. Okay, there you go.
Hi.
Where you can see me. Well, I'm kind of blown away.
Well, so am I. Who are you?
Well, I changed my name to make it a little more flashy.
It's good.
So I thought that was good.
That's very good. What's your real name? It's not what is that, Buttercup? Carla. Carla, have you something happened to the sound? We can't hear you.
Oh, no.
That's good. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it's because I moved I don't know, I'm moving this around. But I'm in North Carolina. I'm in Central, like near Chapel Hill, about 10 minutes.
Hang on a sec. We've lost your sound again, Carla.
Okay,
That's better.
I'm going back up. So you're only going to see half of me, but you can hear the whole of me. So, did you guys ever play like the Cat's Cradle
in Chapel Hill?
Yeah.
No, I think I think the nearest we play. I always wanted to play to Chapel Hill because I think there's a really good independent scene going on there, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like the Cradle is in actually a town called Carborough, which is just like, I mean, you're in Chapel Hill and one store's there, and then just one store over, you're in Carborough. So technically, I think it's in Carborough, but it's kind of an iconic place.
Yeah, I know.
Holds about maybe I don't know, maybe 1,000 people.
Yeah, it's one that I know of. We played in '93. We did this tour with Belly in the fall of '93, and we played in Raleigh in North Carolina.
Raleigh? I've never heard of that. Well, I'm from here, and I'm from a very, very small town. I grew up on a farm, and so I thought I knew like all the little.
Hang on a sec. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to go to what's that site? We've got to get this right. Belly Radiohead tour dates '93. It's amazing how you put this into your computer.
I know, isn't that crazy?
1993, and it'll tell me exactly because I think we played somewhere in North Carolina. Okay. Hang on a sec. Here we go. Concert archives. Oh no, these are all gigography. Here we go. This is what we want. Yeah, I'm sure we played that. Okay, 93. Gosh, there are a lot of dates in those days.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Bear with me. We're getting up there. We played in Norfolk, Virginia. No, Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, Charlotte. Charlotte is sort of like, we lived in Raleigh, which is the capital. We lived there for about 20 years, and Charlotte's kind of the competition for, I guess, the coolest metro area.
Yeah.
Technically, they have more people, They have a football team now. They have those kind of things. But I'm a Raleigh girl. But we live in the country now. We live close to Chapel Hill,
Yeah.
and so yeah, that's what's up with me.
So how are you
And what's up
doing?
with
How are you doing? How are you coping? How's it all going over there?
Well, to be honest, and I think I can be honest with you, is I suffer from clinical depression. And so this whole pandemic thing has really been tough. My dad died before it happened, and I haven't been able to see my brothers for a year. And yes, the past couple of days were not good, but I think I'm feeling better. I don't know if it's the weather,
Hmm.
but it's not, it's a family thing. My brother has bipolar disorder, so it's very common in my family. So it's been challenging because I'm kind of an introvert anyway.
Yeah.
So, but I stayed really busy at first. I sew, I do a little bit of quilting and stuff. And so at the beginning, I was contacted by someone who asked if I would like to make masks. And it was back in March. It was before the CDC actually came out and said there was some benefit to cloth masks. And so once they said go, I just started sewing, and that was kind of how I sewed until I just couldn't stand it anymore. I sewed about 400 masks, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, and then now if you put a gun and said go to the sewing machine, I'd say okay, I don't think it can make any more. But that gave me I felt like I had some purpose and that I could do something to help out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, my heart goes out for you suffering depression. I mean, I know a little bit about that, having been through it myself, and I think, you know, everybody who everybody who's suffered it or been touched by it knows what what a place it is and how hard it is, and it's a very lonely place as well, isn't it? It's have you been?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
but I have a lot of friends, unfortunately, who have had their own personal experiences. And my husband, he understands. And, my brother,
Yeah.
is really, he's been sick his entire life. He was diagnosed when he was in his early 20s, and he's in his 50s now.
Wow.
So, so he has struggled with it. But I would say that I always said that he was kind of a high functioning bipolar depressive, because he had he's married, he's had a stable marriage, he has raised two sons.
Wow.
um, he works, he's a farmer, and he still works. Unfortunately, as he's gotten older, he's had a lot more problems because of medication. Certain medications that you take for a long time, like lithium, that can really be bad on your kidneys and stuff. It can really be hard on your organs. And so he's had to make some changes. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. He's had to make some changes. And so he's had some difficulty, but we talked on the phone the other day. I just wish I could see them. We had our first jab about 2 weeks ago, and we have another one in another 2 weeks. And then after that, I get to go home and visit them.
Wow.
So, and I didn't get man flu.
Which one did you have the Pfizer one?
We had the Pfizer, and what's really funny is that, I'm extremely, I research everything. I'm actually kind of got a journalistic background, and I don't do anything medical without really looking at it. And to be honest with you, I knew it was the two shot. I knew it wasn't the Johnson and Johnson, but I didn't even ask. We just went in the Walgreens drugstore. I had made an appointment, and they could have put orange juice in my arm, and I would have been okay.
Yeah.
No problem. So when I got home, someone asked me what vaccine, and I said, I can't believe it. I don't know which one it was,
Yeah.
but
Did you
but
get
anyway.
charged? Do you get charged for it?
Well, we're not supposed to get charged, but they did ask to see my insurance card, which is weird because I wonder what would have happened if I just said, I don't have insurance, because I'm sure the insurance company is going to figure out how to make, how to make something off of it. Just because, just because that's what they do. We have the what they called Obamacare, which is our ACA, Affordable Care Act, and that was how they got. I guess that's been maybe 6, 7 years. Um, and my husband and I are both self-employed, so that's really important to us. But I just think it was weird that they asked for the card.
Yeah,
Um,
that is weird. That is weird. But I mean, I always think the American health system is quite weird because, in Britain we have this system called the NHS. So if you're ill,
mhm.
anybody's, there is a private medical system, which means you can get seen to immediately.
Yes.
For some, no, that's not it, because on the NHS, which is the health system,
Mhm.
you can get seen to immediately if it's you just might have to wait. If you had a hip replacement, you might have to wait 2 months, as opposed to if you went privately, you could probably get it done in about 3, 4 weeks. But
Okay.
we've got this amazing system called the National Health System, which was introduced after the Second World War, and the idea was that the government at the time, it was a Labour government under a prime minister called Clement Attlee, and
Mhm.
there was this whole, after the Second World War, of how the citizens, the people of the United Kingdom of Britain, had really suffered and had really,
Mhm.
you know, had put everything into it, and the politicians were like, we need to give back to our people, so we're going to offer
Yeah.
free healthcare for everyone,
Mhm.
and it's an amazing thing, and it's something that I sort of, my generation have it's a norm. But of course it's not the norm when you
Yeah.
go to somewhere like America and you go, geez, is it not like, you can't, that all
Yeah.
these horror stories about, people who don't have any money not being attended to, or, it's just, it's inconceivable. And it's funny, I got into an argument with I remember I was staying in Venice Beach in LA. It was last time we were there on tour. I think it was 2016 or something.
Mhm.
And there was a guy in a guitar shop there, and he was a real, really, really right wing. And he was banging
Mhm.
on about, there seems to be a fear of this, of the idea of socialism in America. A lot of people seem to have this fear. And I was trying to appease him, and I said, what do you know about? Because it's like bandied around. Oh, you're just a socialist. I said, no, I'm not. But what do you mean by that? What are you scared of? And I explained it in terms of, well, you get
Mhm.
free health care, uh, and also if you're unemployed, you have. And Britain, it's no longer the case. There used to be a bigger welfare state, so it's really, really hard now. But the European model is still, people are, if you've fallen through the cracks in society, you are looked after. Whereas our model is probably a bit more like America's, which is just like, tough, get off, have another go. So
Yeah.
it's it's interesting because, yeah, so what's great about the vaccine in this country is you can't buy the vaccine in this country. You can't skip the queue. There's no skipping the queue, which is,
Mhm.
it's all done by age group. It should also be done by profession, like frontline workers, like the police force and teachers and
Yeah.
stuff should be getting, but they haven't done it like that. I think it's too complicated for them. But they've just
Oh,
done it
well,
by age group.
they did it here. They started here with like nurses, first responders. I believe the second was those were elderly people in nursing homes, and then I think they went to people who were over 65, and then the tier that we were in is if you have any kind of underlying health issues, and I have high blood pressure, which is, compared to other stuff, it's not, well, I guess, it's not great, but I was also, they were very, like, within a week of, basically just giving it to whoever. And they were doing, I don't know if you heard about this, but what they were doing is they called it waste dose. Have you heard that expression?
No.
So what would happen is, let's say a drugstore that was giving them away would get to the end of the day and they'd open the vial and it had been refrigerated for, as long as it could be. And if you came into the store, like at the end of the day, just to check, they would have some that they were going to have to throw away. And they would rather put it in someone's arm of any age, of any type, than to throw it away.
Yeah.
So people were a Facebook group started looking for so-called waste, doses or whatever that they could get them. And I kind of wondered how that worked because let's say you had a 2-shot that you were doing and you got the first waste dose, but then you're still going to have to get another shot in a couple of weeks. And then I felt like, do you get another waste dose? Do you take someone's place in line who deserves more? But it's to the point now where I think, at least in North Carolina, I think I heard that we're doing pretty good in terms of our quantity now.
Yeah.
So they've got everybody lined up. So I'm just, really looking forward to it. It's so good to see you. And I think, and you were saying at the beginning of the program that you were thinking about going to every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And, who cares what we think? If you feel like going every 2 weeks, I know you said if there was an uproar, but, there's some people that they just don't give a shit. They just think that you owe them something.
I actually think people have been really nice. And I think what it is, it's kind of like, I feel like, I think it's a bit like the summer holidays. Sometimes we all need to get away. And I would never want this to be like, I'm tuning in because because I'm like, I've got a show or something, I've got like 3 things on my notebook that I wrote earlier about what I was just gonna, just beforehand. I just think I feel like I'm very much somebody who kind of tries to feel their way through life rather than thinking. Yeah. So I think maybe, and also I want to, I think it's good. I think it feels right. And it's my birthday next Thursday as well. And I'm going to probably, they're going to open restaurants next week so you can eat outside. So we'll probably go to a nice somewhere nice to eat. I think somewhere's booked anyway. So
that's great.
Which will be nice.
That is so great. And I'm, I hope you're, going to continue to be get on the path to wellness, because it's really tough. And I think the hardest thing, and I think you were saying, and I do the same thing. I think, we have we're not doing great. My husband lost his job in November, and he's self-employed, but he had a really good contract with someone. But they just couldn't. Actually, to be honest with you, he worked at a recording studio. And
oh, really?
they couldn't. Yeah, it's a place you wouldn't believe it. It's so huge. It looks like a spaceship has landed in a field. It's like the guy that built it just went absolutely nuts.
Wow.
And so my husband was really just in charge of the whole facility. And they could bring in like whole orchestras. That's how big it was.
Wow.
So that was kind of their specialty, was to do things like that. And to bring in even 8 to 10 people was, it just wasn't going to happen. People weren't interested, in booking and that kind of thing. So, I forgot what got me onto that, but
your husband.
I know what I was saying. Yeah. So what I was saying is, but yeah, we're still in our house. We still have food. We have our kitty cats.
Yeah.
And we have all those things. But when you have clinical depression, you feel like you, especially when you feel like you're lucky, you don't, you feel the guilt too, because you feel bad and you think, I have no reason to feel bad. And when that happens, what I just think is, this is the chemicals talking. These are the chemicals. I don't know how you feel about that, but
yeah, no, I think that's one of the things. I find that what I found really hard in the last 3 months, that and I'm coming out of it, I think, definitely, is to be in, you know, here in Wales, it's our home, and it's like a slice of heaven. It's the most unbelievable. It's, you know, when we found this house and we did it up 8 years ago, it was like our dream house. It was like our dream. It's so beautiful. It's kind of in the midst of wild British countryside, in a valley, mountains, water, everything, incredible wildlife. And when you sit there, or you're sat outside, and you can see this beauty, but you can't feel it. And I think it's like that for me is like, because I can go out, I could be down, as we all have bad days, and I can go outside and I can sit out there, rain or shine, that's what I do. You know, I always take a cup of tea, very British, and might sit, if it's raining, I'm sitting under cover, and I'll just feel the elements. And I think depression shrouds you in something. It stops you interacting. It stops you feeling, for me, and it stops, you know, you can hear a bird sing. You can see the light reflect off. It's just rained. You can see the light reflect off the trees. And it's so, you know, you're mentally, you absolutely know this is such a stunning, beautiful moment, but you can't feel it. And I think for me, that for me is the warning signs. And I think, like you said, it's you know, we all, you know, we are all lucky. We all have a roof over our heads. We've got, you know, you've got enough food to eat. We've all got the basic things. We've got, like, I mean, I often think about this, like, you know, 200 years ago, we've got this running water. You turn on the tap and it's hot. You know, you don't have to light a fire and sit in a tin bath and wait for the water to heat up, like in some, you know, some Western or something. So we've got all these things, and we're lucky. You know, I'm not living in an inner city high rise, you know, surrounded by people with no access. I'm incredibly lucky. So there is that guilt that kicks in, but, you know, I don't know quite how to resolve that. It just, I think if you're aware of how lucky you are, then, but that also mustn't stop you acknowledging I'm depressed, or I'm really unhappy here. And I think for me, what it's done is that it's kicked me on. There's a reason I got depressed. And there's a reason for me, and I'm not saying this is the case because depression has many, many different forms. Like like you're saying, it's in your family, it can be chemical, your brother's bipolar. It's probably quite different from the depression that I'm feeling. And my depression is almost like, it's like a nervous breakdown. It's basically my soul saying, you need to change somehow, or there's things you need to address. And for me, it's a moment of profound truth. So the depression has kicked in because it says, you're not waking up. You're not waking up to what you have to do or what you have to deal with here. And for me, it's old stuff, but it's also where I'm going. So it's kind of like, it serves a purpose. And however uncomfortable it is, you know, the depression I had 20 years ago, it was there for a reason, and I understand. And it started me upon, if you like, my journey, which is the journey of spirituality. And this is another jolt to the system saying, you need to address some stuff, and you need to move on. And so I'm lucky. I think I'm profoundly lucky because I recognize that, and I'm in the situation whereby I can be still and sense where I have to go. A lot of people cannot be still because they have to work. They have to, you know, I can actually be still if I want to, and it's actually the hardest thing. I've always been busy, and being still is so truly still. And not doing anything is so hard. But for me, that's where the truth is, and that's where the stuff comes up. So, you know, it's multifaceted depression. I think what is good is that we are all aware of. I mean, listen, there's an epidemic of it throughout the world. It's
Mm-hmm.
massive. And I think a lot of it to do is with the reason so many people have mental health issues is because they should be having mental health issues. Why? Because the system and the way the world is fucking nuts. You
Yeah.
know, it's unsustainable. I am under no doubt that people in 1,000 years will look back at this time and go, oh my God, what were they doing? What must it have been like? We've got to such an extreme point. You know, the fact that we're in this climate crisis, that alone on its own without anything else is going to put a lot of people under a lot of mental strain, whether they
Yeah.
consciously realize it or not. And then the pressures of this system that we live under, which is, you know, the capitalist system is very clever. And I'm not anti-capitalist. Like, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
socialist. I'm a humanist. But I'm not socialist. But I'm also not pro-capitalist because capitalism is very, very, very clever because it says, look what you can get. And this thing will actually make you feel better. And if you
Mm-hmm.
buy this and you get this, this will make you feel better. And
Yeah.
and in order to get that thing, you have to borrow some money. Oh, okay, I'll borrow the money. And when you borrow the money, that's when you're beholden. So you have to pay this debt off. And I always said
Mm-hmm.
this. My dad, when he paid off his mortgage, he was age 55, 60, and he said it was like a noose off around his neck. And I realized it's like it stops you telling your boss to fuck off if you don't want to do your job. You know, all these things. You know, and I'm one of the lucky ones because, you know, I had that thing where, like, having some success in the band, like age 30, I bought a small house in Oxford, and
Mm-hmm.
within 2 years, I'd paid off the mortgage. It wasn't a massive amount, but I was free. And that's when I had my first crisis, my kind of breakdown and depression, because I suddenly, all these things that I thought were going to make me happy, which is part of the
Mm-hmm.
capitalist dream, which is being successful, having the house. I had a nice little Volkswagen Golf car, beautiful, all paid for.
Oh
And
God.
yeah, you know, and I had it, and I'm in this band that's made this third album, OK Computer, and I should, by all rights, be happy, but I was more miserable than ever. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm lucky because I understand that I've reached the dream of having all this, having the success and all that. And what you realize, it's more hollow than, it doesn't bring you that. And that Arthur Miller in his plays, all like Death of a Salesman, it's the
Mm-hmm.
hollowness of this, it's the hollowness of capitalism, and we haven't found a better way. We will do. But what am I saying? I've gone off on a bit of a tangent. No, the reason is I think that the problem is the pressure, the force, the weight that people are put under, because of the system. It's no surprise that so many people have mental health issues. And, as human beings, for a long time, we've been really in touch with nature. Never before has humanity been so removed from nature. And there's a hole there. There's a massive hole there,
Mm-hmm.
So, I've gone off on one, and thank you for, but I really think if you're suffering, if you're challenged by the world, if you're suffering at times, you can do something about it, but don't be hard on yourself, because I think that's a very natural reaction
Yeah.
to being a sentient, feeling human being at this time in the history of the planet,
I agree.
Amen.
I
I've just given my
agree.
sermon, Pastor
Yeah.
O'Brien. Now, I think that, and the thing about me, and I think the thing about music is to make people feel less alone. But it's like, I remember my father, who's an osteopath. He was always the one I used to sort of check in with when I thought I was going mad. And my dad, the most reassuring thing he would always say is "You're right to feel like that." And I think people who are going mad or feel like they're going mad at them, they're right to feel like that. Now, it doesn't mean you should, you can do things to help alleviate that.
Hmm.
But I think that's a really, really, really natural reaction to what's going on at the moment. And
Yeah.
and I think what's interesting, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get to a place whereby I'm not letting, it's an inward journey. And I think that's
Hmm.
actually I think it's no coincidence that in the West, in the 60s, we had this huge influence of Eastern philosophies and religions like Buddhism and Hinduism and Taoism, which is all about the inner journey. And I
Hmm.
think for me, the inner journey is the thing that helps you properly deal with what's going on out here.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
it's thousands of years old. It's
Yeah.
almost like we've been given the tools to deal with it at this time, and it's there if we want to use it. That's my,
Yeah.
understanding of it.
I read a book and I don't remember what it was, but it was something, I think it was called Mad in America.
Yeah,
It's probably at least maybe 20, 25 years old. And they talked about other, not just other modern societies, but older societies that have done things like treated schizophrenia,
yeah,
um, in ways that, we don't have the time for here. It's much easier just to put someone in the hospital or put them on medication. And don't get me wrong, I mean, there are people with schizophrenia that definitely need their medication.
yeah,
I know that because I have a cousin, that,
yeah.
like I said, I have some family knowledge, but I wish I could remember exactly what it was. But it was just talking about how they treated a disease as insidious
Yeah,
as schizophrenia.
yeah, it's interesting because you're right. A lot of indigenous, and I've been reading a lot of, not a lot, but over the years I've been fascinated. There was a book by Jay Griffiths called Wild, and she's got a new book coming out today, and I'm going to post on it afterwards, and which is an extraordinary book. And she had manic depression, and she went to Brazil. She went to Peru, and she actually ended up she was trying to. The book is all about her trying to fix it, and she goes to a lot of the indigenous peoples throughout the world, and there's a completely different. They see it completely differently. I think if I'm right in remembering what she wrote, that the indigenous tribe that she visited in the Amazon saw this depression as she'd been removed from her soul. It was like soul distancing, and the idea was, and she did ayahuasca, which was
Hmm.
which was described as soul retrieval. So
Hmm.
her soul is back in alignment with where she was, because I think a lot of people we because the way that the system is, it forces us to do things that are not in harmony or in alignment with our soul. And I think
Hmm.
the point that you make about medication is really interesting, because I think medication is, and listen, I'm not. This is just my own personal point of view. It might resonate with some, and other people might hate it. I think medication is amazing if you need it to get you through a moment. Like, if you're feeling like you can't face the world anymore and you're going to take your life or whatever, I think medication is incredible at that moment to really stabilize you. But I think in terms of long-term treatment of mental health, it's interesting because I know they're doing a lot of studies, for instance, on things like fungi and mushrooms and even MDMA. And I'm not,
Right.
what I am saying is that there are other ways of doing it. I think that indigenous uh, older cultures have an understanding of and interpret it in a different way. And it's a more lengthy process, but it's not so chemically invasive, you know? It's more
Yeah.
natural. There might be natural things you take, and it's also, it's almost like, it's like modern society almost doesn't have time for that. It's like, you need to get better now because you've got to get it back to work now because you've got to, so, yeah, it's a really interesting. I mean, I think I think one of the things we've got to do now as a culture is we have to look to the wisdom of these older cultures. That's most of the reading that I'm doing at the moment. It's kind of like, I grew up in my first few years, it was all about modernity and this civilization and moving forward. And technology is fantastic if it serves the planet and humanity, not if it serves itself. But the wisdom and the understanding of life and us with us being beings, cosmic beings in this cosmic universe, the older cultures had worked this out and understood it, and they were far gentler, and a lot of them got completely suppressed because, of course, that kind of Western imperialistic instinct, which was kind of like the teenage boy instinct of like, look at me, beat my chest, wow, isn't this brilliant? You don't believe what I say, but I want your money, and I want, it's kind of that whole thing got suppressed. But what we need to do now is to look to these cultures and try and understand and learn from them. And, a lot of what these cultures are, the terms of the other worlds they talk about are coming now full circle with quantum physics. I've been reading this book on quantum physics and multidimensionality and all this stuff. So I think it's, I think we've reached this crisis point, and I think we threw the baby out with the bathwater with a lot of, the old cultures. But it's time to bring these babies back and listen to them. And they're not babies; they're actually far wiser than us teenagers of the West, if you see what I mean. Anyway,
I was going to ask. You said, just give my opinion about something, but you were talking about the MDMA. Is that ecstasy? Is that what that is?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah. Well, they have something that they're doing, and it's pretty new. They have clinics we live near an urban area, so we've had access to it. But they're using ketamine for treatment for they call it treatment-resistant depression. And so you actually go in and you get a nasal, you can do it IV, but it's a nasal thing. Mm-hmm. But insurance doesn't want to pay for it, really, because there's not much way they can benefit from it, I think. And so when you go in, you need let's say 12 sessions over a couple months. And we're talking, if you don't have insurance, and even if you do, that will cover it, it's like $2,000 or $3,000 per visit. Oh. That's what it costs. So the other thing is they're doing all this research about mushrooms, and the problem is that it's very difficult to get the permission from the government to even do research, to even study it. But there is a huge community, which I just I've kind of perused, of people who are self-medicating with microdoses of mushrooms. Yeah. And they're finding, and they're not, they're taking them something like, I want to say, and please don't quote me on this, but I think it was something like maybe like 3 days on and then maybe off and then 3 days on, and then, maybe eventually you won't have to have it. But, being a cynic, I think that they're not getting it because the insurance companies have no way to monetize a plant, mushroom.
Totally. There's no money in it.
Yeah, so it's sort of like, here's something that could really, they're using it for PTSD. Yeah. They're using ketamine for PTSD. And I have to say, to think about ketamine, they give it as a tranquilizer for your cat when it gets spayed. Have you ever seen a cat coming out of surgery? So I thought, ketamine, yeah, I don't know about this, but it's not quite the same thing. But there are these other, and you were talking about medicine. I mean, it is medicinal, but it's not something where they just keep coming out with antidepressants that cost more and more, have more side effects, and seem to do less and less. In terms of actually being on medication long term, particularly because of my experience with my brother who has bipolar, I would have to disagree with you on that, because he bipolar disorder. I mean, he takes lithium, and lithium basically changed him from a crazy person. I mean, just and he didn't sleep for a week, and that kind of thing. And it worked. He was lucky. It worked really quick for him, and he's taken it all this time, and he has been able to function. And we know for a fact that if he ever stops taking his, he's had every kind of just bad experience that you
No,
can think.
yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not. What I'm saying is, I guess, yeah, and you have way better experience than me. It's like if you had somebody with bipolar, and
Hmm.
you maybe went to that Amazon tribe.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this, but would they have a different way of referencing the bipolar? And they understand. And they go, okay, what we need to do is we need to keep this person, and they maybe work with him for a year or 6 months. But once they do, he or she is no longer suffers. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, you could be right.
I'm saying I think there's a lot there. I think the problem that we have, and I think, don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of medicine as well. All my family are medics. Medicine has been, I think it's in terms of saving your life, it's absolutely extraordinary. And I think what's
Yeah.
happened, I do think, I had my suspicions, my worries about the vaccine initially because, let's face it, none of us know what the long-term effects are because nobody knows what the long-term effects are. However,
Yeah.
I truly believe that there are good intentions, and I think modern medicine can be
Yeah.
wonderful. However, what we do know is modern medicine suffers from a real problem, that the model, because these big pharmaceutical companies are massive multinational companies,
Hmm.
and they have shareholders, and I
Hmm.
understand that from studying economics. What are shareholders? Shareholders are about, your share price, and it's all about how do you get your share price up and keep it. You have to sell more and more. You can't stay flat. You have to sell more and more and more. Well, how do you do that? Where you keep more and more people have to take your products. So my problem has always been with farm is the balance between is being discerning between. I think there's so much of medicine is amazing. However, there's
Hmm.
also a tendency for, and I use that word, big pharma wants to
Hmm.
sell you drugs. And I think, probably the most extreme example you have of it is in America, because as you're talking about
Yeah.
the insurance companies, and it's a real problem because whilst there are many in the medical industry who have noble and great intentions, there are also
Hmm.
many who are in it for the wrong intent. The model is flawed. If it was a model that it wasn't, there weren't shareholders, they were, if you like, charities, then
Hmm.
then you wouldn't have this emphasis on trying to sell you more and more product. And I think
Yeah.
I probably mentioned this before, there was what used to happen in pre-communist China, old Taoist China. There was this model, and it was kind of quite, I think it's a really enlightened model. So you'd have your practitioner, your local doctor, and you'd pay them a small retainer. So
Hmm.
that could be paid by the state or whatever, if you like, if people couldn't afford it. And is that doctor is obliged to keep you in good health. And if you fall ill, that doctor, out of his or her own pocket, has to nurse you back to health. Our
Hmm.
system in the West is completely different. They start making money when you're ill,
Yeah.
or you. So there's no emphasis. The model is not set up. There's no emphasis on keeping you in good health. If the structure, the system is set up, the emphasis is on keeping you in good health. It's about preventative medicine. And all
Yeah.
the stuff that I do, like I haven't been to a GP for 8 years because the things that I do, I realized that when I had my health crisis, I had to get into preventative measures. So that meant, I had to, for a start, it means you have to, the first thing is Hippocrates said, let food be thy medicine. So you have to eat the right thing. That's one of the most
Yeah.
fundamental. So that's your medicine. But I go and see an acupuncturist and I have kinesiology. And I do this stuff, not because I've got a headache. Sometimes I go and I'm like, I've got a pain or something. But it's always about keeping me in balance. And the problem is our system of health is flawed because it only works whilst people are not in good health. If people are in good health, they don't make any money. So there's no emphasis, and I don't
Hmm.
care how there's no emphasis on keeping people in good health. And listen, back to your brother's situation. So much better than me, and thank God that he's able because he's not that's the only option presented to him to keep him, stable, right, and his family stable. So that's absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
He's so much. I mean, we're very different. We're just. I don't know. I think I ended up in the wrong family, but but we love each other, but personality wise. But he's been hospitalized 3 or 4 times, and maybe a couple times he just wasn't reachable. But there were times when he said to me, he said, "Carla, there are people here that when they get out, they're going on the street. That's where they came from. They came from the street, and that's where their home is. They're going to get whatever treatment they get here, and they go back out, and they get on the street." And then one time, I remember Thanksgiving, I showed up for Thanksgiving, and I just gotten out of the car, and he said, he goes, "People woke up this morning in dirt. They woke up, and they were covered in dirt, because that's where they sleep, on the ground." And it was just like, he has this, he's my hero. Like, even if he doesn't feel bad, he'd look at me in the hospital and he'd say, "Carla, I'm going to be okay." He says, "I'm going to be okay." But I look around and I see some of these people and they're not going to be okay. So to think that, obviously he's getting treatment and he's going through periods of feeling better. But I want to digress and give you a piece of advice. Since you said you had not seen a general practitioner in 8 years, you are probably not quite as old as I am, maybe a few years younger. But one thing you should really be concerned about, especially when you're under stress, is your blood pressure.
Pressure. No,
Yeah.
I can do my blood pressure. I can do all that stuff at home.
Yeah. Good. Then
And I do.
listen,
I do the tests. I do the prostate test. All of that. I mean,
okay.
I do all the tests, but there's no reason for me to visit a GP because I don't. If I've got.
If you're checking your blood pressure, that's good. I mean, they call it the silent killer for a reason.
Yeah.
And I would have never dreamed that I would have high blood pressure. I mean, I don't know. It didn't seem that way. But anyway, I want you to be okay.
Thank you, Carla. Well, that's a good place to pause, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for your honesty about how you've been and how you are. And I think, because it's great, because it means we had a conversation. We went somewhere that was really, it felt good to talk about what we just did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's not hard for me to talk about it anymore, but you do still have to wonder about people that, especially when you're a freelancer, you just, sometimes you wonder. I mean, you want to talk openly about depression. Everyone says we should talk openly about it, but then it's just like, I don't want to hire her, that kind of thing. Sometimes it's really hard to be public, but then there's just sometimes you just have to go, fuck it. This is necessary. It's necessary for people to understand as many facets of this as you can. And I do wish you so much the best, because you seem like the sweetest, most caring person, and it sounds like you deserve some more happiness.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you for being so honest, and thank you for your lovely words. And I hope that you start feeling the spring and the summer, and I hope it lifts you up.
Yeah. So anyway, this is great. I don't even know how to hang up. How do I get out of here? Do I just
press the cross in the top right? Do you see there's one in the top right? Do you press
that? Yeah.
Yeah, you got
that. Will I still be able to see the rest of the show?
Yeah, I'm going to go off in a sec. I'm just going to say goodbye to everyone. Thanks, Carla.
I took everyone's space. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. Great.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Carla. See you, darling. Bye. Okay, guys. I'm going to sign off. See you in a couple of weeks' time. Be good.